Okay, so before I get into the specificity of like what's more important, class or the normal selector or with ID, like how does CSS know what to apply where? Before we get into it, I kind of want to show you a few selectors that are very commonly used. So I added a bit of text here. I just added one H1, a paragraph here. These are not contained in anything. Okay, they're just general here. This is just for example purposes. We have a section here. Here I did add a H1 and a P tag. Then we have a section here that has a class on it, and then a H1 with a UL and an LI. Okay, so the first one we saw is just selecting H1 like this. Now the problem with this is that sometimes we just want to style one H1, all right, maybe just this one. But if we just select it generally like this, we just say H1, then basically what CSS is going to be like is, oh, okay, I'm going to look at all the H1s on your page. So it's going to look at everything. It's going to analyze it. Oh, there's a H1. Okay, so I'm going to style that. Hey, this H1 and this H1. Okay, so if we add a color of red here, I don't like red. I want cornflakes blue. Oh, it's cornflower. Okay, never mind. So it just styles all the H1s. Okay, this is a very, very general selector. Sometimes you might want to do this, but a lot of times you might want something specific. These are generally good, again, when you want to style all the H1s in one specific way. That can work, or maybe you want your paragraphs to look in one specific way, so all of them, then this is fine. The general selector can be very good. Other times you want to do something more specific. So how can I select this if I just want this to be selected on its own? Well, I can either add a class on it, or I can add an ID on it, okay? Depending how important and unique this is. If it's something very unique, like a logo, then I'm gonna add an ID. If it's something more basic, then I can add a class if I just wanna select it for the sake of selecting it and styling it. But sometimes you might have one here, like in this section, and this section might also have a class on it, I apologize, but not necessarily. But for this one, let's just add a class of, this is just a random section, okay? Let's name it a random section that we might have on the page. Sometimes when you might just have one here and you want to select it, you can actually access that with the section. So take a look. I can actually chain together multiple words here. I can say, I want to get that random section, and in that random section, I want to style the H1s. Okay, so I just write the class and H1. Okay, so the way CSS looks at this is, okay, let me get all the H1s. It looks at all the H1s, and then it's gonna be like, okay, but only the H1s in the random class. So now if we add a color to this, let's do dark magenta, then it's only gonna style that one. As you can see, only this one gets styled because it takes a look at the random class and only the H1s in the random class. Now, obviously, if you have more H1s in this random class, it is going to apply to it. Sometimes you might want that, sometimes you might not. It kind of depends. Sometimes you might have divs wrapped around these like this to avoid running into that issue, and then you might have multiple H1s here. Then you would select the div and the H1, or you might have a class specifically added to this. So main title maybe or something, and then you could select main title H1. So it kind of depends on how your HTML looks like. So you're gonna get most of the experience out of this when we're actually building out some projects. Okay, but those are a few ones. Another selector that I want to show you, and that is the star selector. And all this does is it basically selects everything on your page. So I'm going to show you a new property here, which is called font-size. This just changes the font size of everything that you have on the page. So if I go something like 20 here, 20 pixels, it's going to change every element to 20 pixels. So it looks at everything. H1P section, I don't care, I'm changing everything. So this is the star selector. This is greatly used if you maybe want to get rid of some basic styling that is usually provided on elements. So as you can see, these spaces that the H1 has and the paragraphs and things of that sort, sometimes you might want to just get rid of everything because every browser kind of behaves differently. So what you would do is you would remove all these spaces and everything, and then you would add it on your own where you want, just to have a bit more control. So this can be used greatly, and is used actually in almost all projects. Let me show you two more selectors that you might encounter. One is maybe sometimes you want to target, on this H1 I added the class of my list. Sometimes you want to target something that's below it. So in this case, if maybe I have the H1 selected, I can target something below it, like this UL. The way I can target something below is by adding a plus symbol. So I can get the my list, I can get that H1, and if I add a plus, I can select that UL below it, okay? And then here, let's introduce a new one. Maybe I want to get rid of the style on those dots on the unordered list. We can add a list style, whoops, and we can say none. And hit save, and as you can see, that gets rid of that. So anytime you want to target something below, you can have the element above selected, and you can target it with the plus. In this case, H1, you need to add H1 plus P, and it would select this P tag, okay? Another way we can select elements is maybe I have this list here, and maybe I don't have a class on it or anything, and maybe I have another list out here. Maybe I just have some list laying here. I mean, normally you wouldn't have this anyway, probably just list laying here, but you might have it on a different side of your page. So what we can do is I can select the lists that are specific to a UL. Okay, so I know that I just want to select the lists that belong specifically to a UL. So what we can do is we can say we can say UL that has lists in it, like this. And if I change the color of this to, let's do, what shall we do? Fuchsia. Hit save. As you can see, it only changes the LIs that belong to a parent that's the UL. So whatever is the parent, so the big element that holds all of these small LIs, are the only elements that are going to be applied to. So like this. Now, again, this, you might probably also have it in a UL to be semantically correct. So this wouldn't work. But what you might have is a class on top here. So let's say this is my navigation or something, nav links like this. You can also add a class here. So you can combine these with classes, IDs. So everything I'm showing you here, you can add classes and IDs as well. All of these symbols. So here I can get rid of this UL, and I just say that, hey, every LI that belongs to this specific class, to this nav links, like this. And as you can see now, this only changes. But make sure when you're using this symbol, it only applies to when your parent is nav links. So only the LIs that have a parent of nav links. So make sure you just look outside. So here are the nav links. Oh, what's my parent? Well, the thing that wraps me, which is nav links. In this case, oh, okay, what is my parent? Well, just this UL. It doesn't have that class of nav links. So obviously it's not going to be applied. In the other case, when we didn't have the class, well, it was the same. Oh, the parent is the UL. Perfect. I'm going to apply the styles. Oh, the parent is UL. I'm going to apply the styles. But here it's a bit more specific. But sometimes this is kind of redundant, and you might not want to do this. Since you have a class already on top of it, you can just get this by saying nav links li, and you're going to be just as fine. So there's different ways of selecting elements, and there's no one specific right way of doing it. You have a lot of choices here that you can mess around. So yeah, it's just about messing around with it and trying to figure out what would be the best choice without even like overblowing and adding a class to everything, right? Sometimes it's enough to just add it to a parent element, and you can drill down using the selectors by saying elements, using the element, and then, or maybe having a random class and then saying li. Sometimes that might be fine, and it might be just enough to do it. Okay, but technically you can chain together as many as you want. Imagine that we can have an li, and then we might have an a in here, so an anchor tag that's going to link us somewhere. Let me just drop this here in real quick. We're going to add a hashtag to quickly get rid. Let me switch the keyboard. There we go. So you might have a anchor tag here. So to access that, you would need to drill down. You would need to go from UL to LI to A. So we can do that like this. Let's select the class. I forgot. My memory is very short today. Navlinks. So we can get that navlinks like this. LIA. So this works just as fine to color black. Okay, hit save. Boom, it got rid of it, right? But sometimes, again, this is if you want to go all the way down and be very specific. If you have only this anchor tag here, you can even get rid of this li, because there's no real reason we should add this li in here, because what this specificity means is, what the selector means is, I should go to the navlinks, which is here, and then take a look inside the li's, modify only the anchor tags, because if I have another anchor tag in here, let's say hello. If we have another anchor tag in here, as you can see, it doesn't modify it. Why? Because I selected it specifically. I said navlinks, only the A tags inside the li. Okay? So by doing that, only this one is going to be black, and this one stays blue. If I want both of these blue, then I would have to get rid of this li. So boom, there we go. Now both are dark. Perfect. So those are a few ones. We can also select elements by their number, where they are positioned inside a group here. So I'm gonna clean this up a bit to make this a bit more simple to read. So let's get rid of everything. I'm just gonna get a UL here, and I'm gonna add a few LIs. LI, hello, and then we're gonna duplicate these a few more times, okay? So the way we can do this, I'm gonna add a class of links in here. We can get rid of everything. We can select those links like this. Again, if we add a style here, color red, it's basically gonna apply everything. So if you add just a color red to this or something, it's gonna apply the color red to everything that you have inside here. Okay, but maybe I wanna do something specifically to only one. So what we can do is, with this links, so the class, the big UL that we have, we can select a specific number in here, right? So on the position, that's what I'm trying to say. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The numbers of the elements and their positions inside this UL. So the way we can do that, if I want to select one specific one, we can say links like this, and then we can add a colon like this and say end child, all right? And here we can provide the number. If I want the first element inside this links, I can say 1, and then I can say color red. I don't like this red. I need to change it. It's so awful. Blue. God bless. Okay, there we go. So if I say ends child 1, as you can see, everything gets turned into blue. Well, why is that happening? Well, we need to add specifically what element we want to target, because right now we just say, hey, the links ends child 1, which is only one. We only have one class of links. So what I need to say here is, in the links, the li, the first li with the ends child. Okay, so let me change the color of this because it's, again, hard to see. So as you can see, I need to write the class that we want to take a look at, and then the li, and which li in this list of groups. Well, the first one, so ends child 1. If I want the third one, I just write 3. And let me make this clear why that happened. So if I go back here, this happened. As you can see, nothing applies now, but if I say 1, it applies. And the reason why this is happening is because we only have one class of links. So it takes a look here and adds that color to everything basically that we have in this links. But if we have two of these, then take a look. If I do 2, it only applies to this one. If I do 1, it only applies to this class. So we strictly looked at the classes, the links class, when it came to the nth child, and not the li or something else more specific. Okay, so that's why when we added 1, it just applied the color to the whole thing, because it was like, okay, well, I just apply. You can read it like this: links, color, blue. That's basically what happened, because we had 1. So this had no effect on it. But if we have multiple ones like this, like 1 and 2 links, then you can specifically select 1 or 2 of these. All right, so let's get rid of this. We're only going to keep this one, and let's change this back to li, and we are specifically selecting the second one.